Um, so the Great Plague was spread by fleas on the back of rats. And these rats apparently exited cargo ships starting in Sicily or maybe even modern day Turkey, the area of the Anatolian Peninsula. Um, in the mid 1300s, we have a map in our book that shows the spread decade by decade of this plague. And people didn't know what caused it. So there was all sorts of conspiracy theories out there that caused it. Oftentimes, Jewish people were blamed. We know that Jewish people had been treated poorly in Europe for centuries before this, which can probably be traced back to biblical stories about Jesus. So that was always there, and Jews were oftentimes persecuted. Conspiracy theories made up that they were poisoning wells and stuff. There's an interesting story about the Pope with the Great Plague, where he was so fearful that he lit a fire around Rome, or around his home in Rome. It wasn't St. Paul's Basilica as it is today, the Vatican, and he didn't die. It was like, oh wow, he must have done something right. Well, yeah, he probably kept the fleas out, or the rats out. But yeah, so we have this Great Plague that kills off sometimes 50% of a city, a city's population during this period. Here's another painting of the plague. I think 50% of the people who got it died. And in general, probably a quarter to a third of Europe's population died. Now there were people who, well, this is interesting. I thought the plague outfit. I'm in an AP Euro Facebook group, and sometimes they'll like post this like, funny little meme here. So people will post this. They'll be like, "Hey, most popular Halloween costume for 2020, the plague outfit." And is that a mask of sorts? We're all out there wearing masks nowadays, and people are making the jokes, the comparisons. Sometimes maybe they're not joking when they say it. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of an interesting parallel. But people thought the world was ending. They didn't have advanced science. They didn't understand. So sometimes people would leave the city and go and like live in the forests because everyone in the city was dying. And sometimes this worked. Right? Because if you live in the forest, there's less likely of a chance you could get fleas, which, by the way, this does imply that most Europeans had fleas at the point. Yeah, so there's that. And yeah, so this disease spread amongst the rich and the poor. One thing to keep in mind in medieval Europe is that many peasants slept with their animals to stay warm. So you have this situation where definitely a flea-infested period of human existence in Europe. This was not a good time to live in Europe. And when the Great Plague ends, there's this moment where Europe's kind of like, okay, now what? And some would suggest this is the end of the Middle Ages, because what happened is so many people died that there were a lot of job openings, ironically. And a lot of people then went in and applied to get some of these jobs that had been filled by craftsmen, by blacksmiths, by skilled laborers in cities. And then peasants started demanding better pay because, hey, supply and demand, right? If there's a bunch of jobs, people need work, they'll pay you more, right? And it's interesting, right? There are actually accounts of like rich nobles of the period, like just being furious at peasants because they're eating meat and fish and they should instead be eating hay, and how dare they eat decent food, those low scum of the planet. Yeah, the rich were really mad that they had to pay these people more, and that maybe they were going to stop being peasants, and of course they don't deserve that, right? the only people who deserved, in the Rich's opinion, to live a decent lifestyle were the top 1%, the rich nobility of the period. Bloodlines matter. So, real brief kind of description there of our Great Plague. And now we're going to move right on, and we're going to, looking at our agenda, we're going to get into the section here. Combine two sections. We'll combine the two sections on the 100 Years' War. And we're going to go ahead and get into my Padlet. Okay, which I need to rename. And I want you to give me 2 grapes. All right, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I'll put on the timer. Go ahead and type in 2 facts. Tell me which of the 2 sections they're from and which of the iGrapes category they're from. Copy 1 fact for each category from one of your classmates. And we will discuss this section in 10 minutes. Questions on what we are doing now? Questions on
By any chance, could you put the pamphlet link in the chat again?